Awesome. Welcome to the March 2021 State TA Day. Let's see, I think there's an issue with the agenda sharing settings. So let me update that real quick. Thanks for bearing with us as this is our first Google Meets State TA Day. So there may be some technological bumps along the way, but we'll get through it together. I'm so excited to see all of you on here, and we're hoping that this is a easier, more interactive experience. And as always, we'll be sharing out all of the follow-up information and everything like that. Okay, let me make sure. All right, anyone with the link can now look at this. I'll put the agenda in the chat as well. And we're going to start by having our wonderful new program assistant, Jen White, introduce herself. So I'll let her take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Try not to blow on this while I'm talking to you. Welcome and hi, I'm Jen. I started beginning of February, so I'm still getting my bearings here. So thank you all for your patience. I came from Front Range Community College where I spent the last 7.5 years, and before that, all kinds of crazy stuff. So anyway, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Jen. So I know some of you have already gotten some email correspondence from Jen. We just wanted to make sure that you knew she is part of the team. We're really happy to have her here, and she's going to be handling some of the day-to-day stuff, things that like Rosie, if you've been on for a while, used to do for us, just help coordinate some of our processes. So we're very grateful to have her here as part of our team. All right, next up, we are going to have Karen. Karen, are you okay to present the PowerPoint? Yep. All right, so Karen's going to present the some E&E updates, and we're going to just talk through some general OEC updates, things that are going on with QRIS. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please chat them or raise your hand so we can unmute you. I think you can, not sure if you can unmute yourself or not, but if you can't unmute yourself, just raise your hand.
Should be able to, yeah.
Cool.
Just the little microphone button along the bottom of your screen. Just click on that to unmute yourself. We really appreciate your patience in switching over to this new platform because we just felt it was going to be a much better collaborating way to chat with each other and not have to, people feel like they have to ask to be unmuted and all that stuff. So you can give us your feedback and let us know how it goes. But hopefully we think this will be a great way to move us forward. So I'm just going to do a quick, we don't have a lot of updates, but I did want to do a quick March update on E&E, and then we have Charlie's going to jump in and do a quick update as well on some of the amendment stuff that's happening. And then we will, I don't have any QRIS updates, I don't think. So unless people have questions, we'll see if we can go through that. But real quick, we've made some real progress, which is super exciting. From the last time we met, we've been able to mark almost 40 more programs eligible. And so we're down to just 47. Most of those are, waiting on some construction to get along a little further and some of that. But we continue to work with you guys really closely. And thank you so much. I've spent a lot of time on calls and emails with many of you this week, and you've been just incredible to support questions, and we've been moving things along. So we will be happy to get Emily back next week, however. And so real quick, we are at 9.9 million. I mean, that is so amazing. So I bet the next time we're chatting, we'll be over the $10 million mark, maybe even within the week. And like I said, we still have these 47 who are in a little bit of a gap process that we're still working on. Those 47 represent an additional 3.4 million. As you guys know, we've been chatting over the last couple months about our gap, and we were real concerned about our gap. It was up around 2.5 million at one point. Last time we met was about 1.5 million. Happy to say it's now down to 500,000. So really great work in getting those budgets, reprioritized and all of that stuff. So we're making great progress. And the big highlights, of course, almost 5,000 new slots with these dollars across our state, which is just absolutely incredible. And we know we're wrapping this thing up in a short couple of months, but gosh, just think about all the lessons we have learned in this grant. So it makes me, I know I shouldn't be laughing because it's been so hard, but it's just been one of those things where it's like, gosh, if we ever get infrastructure dollars again, man, we're going to be able to just charge forward and kill it. But anyway, I appreciate all of your work. And just really great results from this. So it truly is been tough, but it's also been really, really rewarding. I don't want folks to be too terribly concerned about, oh my gosh, how do I show the number of slots? So as we wrap this program up, which will take us between June and September, we're going to have lots of great, data being collected, but data reports out. So you'd be able to show in your council areas how many slots were actually grown and some of those things via this grant. So we'll get that information as we get all that pulled together. But we don't want you to have to be too worried about data in that regard because we're doing that on our end of things. So do we want to jump in, Charlie, to the amendment stuff or just take a second and see if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, we can take a pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Feel free to just unmute yourself and chat.
I feel like this is our first state TA day in a while where
you guys have the power to unmute yourselves.
And it's also not like back-to-back presentations. So we do have we have some breathing room today.
Yes, exactly. All right, I'm gonna let you jump in, Charlie, and I'll advance the.
Awesome. Cool. So I know Emily sent out an email a couple of weeks ago about our E&E amendments to add the indirect back in. I know even if you are not pursuing E&E, or even if you don't have indirect, you still have received some notifications from our accounting department to sign the amendment. That's just so everyone has access to the GAE, which we're also going to allow to put the indirect in. So just to clarify, we'll need the original E&E budget or whatever is your most active budget if you've had an amendment since it began, and we'll need 10% of the remaining balance up to date. So whatever was what you last invoiced for, that amount, 10% of that added back in to the original E&E budget.
Charlie, is that 10% or is that 10% or whatever their indirect rate is?
Right, whatever the indirect rate is. Thank you for clarifying. I know we're not all 10%. So yeah, whatever your indirect rate is, pull that amount from your remaining balance, what you have now, and then put that back into the original budget. Once the amendment is signed, then you'll be able to start charging indirect on when you're submitting like your sugar spending for E&E as well. But the contract has to be signed first.
And I'm not sure if this is on your slide, Charlie, but I did want to just quickly mention that we are working with the sugar team to add that E&E into your requisitions. And so we will get that all automated for you here in a short period of time, probably mid-April, when we think the majority of the amendments will be signed off. So we'll keep you up to date on that.
Any questions on these? And again, I apologize if there was any miscommunication about what was required with these, but yeah, we're grateful to be able to give you some of this money back, and we will be able to do it pretty quickly here. All right. And I know we've already received some budgets and contracts or SOWs for next fiscal year. Just wanted to put a couple of reminders here while I have you all. So with the scope of work, we want to make sure that all projects are submitted on one of them. It just makes it easier to track with the accounting team. So if you have EQIT, please put that in the same SOW as everything else. Our accounting team has requested that there's a formula in all of the total cells. So please don't overwrite the formulas in the budget. If you need support on if you feel like the formula is not working or something weird is happening, just reach out to us. But they're not accepting hard numbers written into cells where formulas are required. You know, sometimes calculations, when you round, sometimes the calculations will give you some sense at the end. We need just hard dollar amounts. We're not able to have any sense in any of the cells of the budget. So just make sure to put in the rounding code or to manually round it. So that way we don't have any sense in the budgets. And just a reminder to make sure that we're not charging indirect on rent, on provider incentives. So those would be things like gift cards, scholarships, or subcontracts over $25,000.
But that does not mean that you can't charge indirect on the merit bonus awards.
Right.
Yeah, just want to clarify that.
Yes, this is provider incentives, things like gift cards and stuff like that. Merit awards are their own thing, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. And then just finally a plug. We know that the turnaround here was tight. We know we're giving folks some extra wiggle room beyond that March 15th date. We really need these though by next Friday, a week from tomorrow. If you don't think that's going to work out, just talk to Michelle or I. But we're really trying to get these in so that way everything is good to go July 1st, and we can move forward. Are there any questions on next year's budgets or contracts?
I just want to point out too that we did the forms that got sent out now say the Department of Early Childhood. Yay. So just make sure if you're copying things over or whatever, you're using those new forms because they're also looking for that. And then it's going to probably prevent us from doing like mass amendments in July since we're going to be moving out of CDHS. So just one other little reminder.
Yes, thank you for that, Karen.
Okay.
And just a little note here, we know this is a crazy time for everybody and you have tons of contract demands and things like that as the end of this fiscal year kind of closes up. We really appreciate your partnership, responsiveness, how hard you're working for the community. Please reach out to Michelle or I if you need support in going through something, or if you just want to meet for 15 minutes to talk through how everything is going. We know that email is great when you need to send something quick out, but that face-to-face time, sometimes you can, eliminate a lot of confusion and miscommunication just by having that 10-minute face-to-face or voice-to-voice meeting as opposed to emailing back and forth. So just want to let you know we're here if you need that. We're happy to accommodate that. And yeah, it's crunch time, but we'll be done with E&E and we'll be done with these budgets, hopefully July 1st, and we'll be able to move on from there. Any questions or comments, have anything they want to contribute or say regarding next year's contracts? Awesome. And hopefully it was a little bit easier following the budget amendments that we had to do, since there's not too much that's changing from in terms of duties from what we just worked on with those amendments. So yeah, we really appreciate the hard work. All right.
Yeah, and I want to just say one little thing. So we, Lisa Jensen Thompson shared this really cool article with us this morning about some work that her and both of Rapid Hill were called out in a newspaper. So gosh, if you ever have those things, we love to read that and share that with our leadership teams and stuff. So congratulations, you guys, for a really nice article on the work that's happening around supporting new licensed providers. And I'm sure that Lisa would probably love to share that article for everyone. But yeah, if that's great. And then just a reminder too, we're still collecting success stories from either the E&E grants, sustainability grants, and you can just mail those right into our team. So we're putting them in a document that is shared with the governor's office, and they've been occasionally pulling some of those things out for their news briefs. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, we always love to see good news.
Lana had a question about the budget and what I said about the department rather than the office. So on the new forms of the budgets, they should say at the top the logo, the Colorado logo, but it should say the Department of Early Childhood. So all the new forms were switched from from Colorado Department of Human Services, and now should say the Colorado Department of Early Childhood. So if you're concerned about that, definitely give us a call and we can look at this with you.
Karen, I'm looking at them now. The one, like I clicked the link that was sent out in the email with all the templates. Maybe I have the wrong link, but they all say Office of Early Childhood still with the logo.
Okay, we'll get you those or make sure that link is updated. So could have been that they got changed before we updated our link. Thank you, Lana, for bringing that to our attention.
And if you've already submitted your budget,
we'll make the adjustment.
Right.
Because you were submitting on time. It's our gift.
That's your gift, yeah. Cool. Any other questions? All right, and yeah, I'll with Lisa's permission, maybe I'll just link to that article when I send out the follow-up materials, because it's always so nice to read about the hard work we're doing in action and the lives it's actually affecting. All right, Angela is going to jump in and give us her workforce update. I will link her presentation in the chat, but as always, we always will all send the agenda and make sure everybody has these presentations as well.
Thank you, Charlie. Hi, everybody. Good to see you today. I have just a few quick updates and a few new visuals for everyone related to our workforce stimulus funding. I thought that it would be really helpful to put together this visual pathway to better understand what we hope folks will do to best utilize this funding that we have available for the next couple of years. And then another option that I wanted to share today too is that a lot of these strategies have actually been extended through September 2024. So we're really excited to have a little bit of a longer runway via stimulus funding while we hope to find some sustainable funding for a lot of our workforce supports through the new department. So that's just my quick update on timeline, that a lot of these strategies will be funded through September 2024. And again, we're hoping that a lot of these models will be able to be sustainably funded at some point through the new department. So more to come on that, but just wanted to start with this flow chart of how we see this funding supporting new professionals who are entering the field, existing professionals in the field, and how we want to start better supporting work-based learning using models that already exist in the state. So the first set is, again, just a continuation of the CDA scholarship that was started through PDG. So I think everyone is probably pretty familiar with the CDA scholarship at this point. That launched in fall of 2020. And again, we'll have funding to support the scholarship through September 2024. So we're really excited to see the long-term investment in CDA scholarships, as that's a great initial runway into the workforce for many folks. And then it doesn't, of course, require any type of higher education funding. So again, this is a great starter point for a lot of professionals. And then similar to that, we're going to be continuing the ECE 101 and 103 coursework through that same time period. But
I think it's taping.
I think if everyone can go on mute, that would be wonderful. I'm not sure, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. But one thing I did want to caveat is we have CDA kind of mentioned before 101 and 103, because now that we have a prior learning assessment available in most parts of the state for CDA, we hope that if anyone has completed their CDA coursework, that they're able to do that prior learning assessment and test out of ECE 101. So if you think about this as kind of a continuum, if you start with your CDA, we hope that you can test out of ECE 101, and we have funding for that for the prior learning assessments. If you haven't done any of that and you want to do ECE 101 and 103, you can apply, or you can actually just register directly and you won't have any fees associated with that. And then as you continue on through your journey, if you've already started with that coursework at some point in the past and are interested in obtaining a certificate or degree in the ECE space, that you're able to do so via those higher education scholarships. You have to be, generally speaking, in a declared certificate or degree program to qualify for that, except we are going to be allowing for floating coursework for coaching. So I know Red Rocks and CU Denver has a couple of coaching courses that can help people qualify for the coaching certificate, or excuse me, coaching credential. So there will be a few floating courses that are allowed without that declared certificate or degree program. But generally speaking, we think activity number 2 with higher education scholarships, we hope that that's leading towards degree and credential attainment. And then for folks that maybe have already gone through that process and have been qualified through higher education coursework, we'll be offering higher education loan forgiveness. It will be pretty competitive. I think right now we have just a small pot of funding for about 100 professionals each year through this time period. So we're intending to do about 100 professionals in this calendar year, 2022, 100 in 2023, and we're hoping to be able to also do an additional 100 in 2024, still scoping some of that funding timeline. So we might expand or contract the number of people who are able to receive that higher education loan forgiveness, but we know not everyone will need coursework because they've already completed, so that loan forgiveness hopefully will alleviate some of those pain points. And then as we keep moving forward, for folks that maybe want a little bit more navigation support and wraparound supports and have a work-based learning opportunity where they have their employer who is interested in supporting them through their coursework, we're funding federally registered apprenticeships and the Teach Scholarship so that we can again support employers and professionals in their professional development attainment. And this is an area that we're really interested in funding on a higher basis because we're also seeing that commitment from the employers to increase wage scales and support paid time off and things of that nature. We'll be supplementing that funding with stipends for employers through apprenticeships. So, you know, a lot of that will be seeded, but we hope that the programs are then able to better see where that support can come through. And again, in future opportunities, hopefully the department and our new UPK funding might be able to support some of this on a higher scale. And I see some questions coming through in the chat. So I'm going to pause there, but hopefully everyone's following us on this kind of journey through this continuum, and I'll see if there's anything in real time that that needs to be answered. So it looks like there were some questions on CDA, and that was dropped in the chat. Would it be possible to add dates to different activities? Great, that's a great set of feedback, Stacy. All of these are going through September 2024, so that's wonderful, but I will actually put that somewhere on this slide for future iterations. Does the state-funded RVPD coaching training count as well for that? So that's a great question, and I actually will get to that in just 2 slides. But yes, generally speaking, we should be able to be funding all of that. So let me move on to the next slide really quickly because I want to chat a little bit more about professional development. And Karen, yes, there's slides at the very end with all of the activity updates. as well as our OEC stimulus website and the fact sheets for all of the workforce strategies. So this is the visual, and then I'll give you all of the resources for all of this in just a couple of slides. I didn't want to clutter it with too much information on each slide. So I'll jump into the professional development conversation. So again, knowing that we have, that first slide was a lot of the full requirements to get qualified as an ECT or to become ECT qualified or to go through degree programs or credential programs. And so we also wanted to support funding for professional development opportunities. So some of that activity too, we're splitting funding across a couple of different areas between higher ed, loan forgiveness, and then professional development. So you'll see that top left box is funding that we're actually going to be pushing through the GAE to support coaches and to be able to provide additional training across the state. So we're looking at supporting more reflective supervision groups, allowing for trainers to implement several infant toddler training series that we have training of the trainer opportunities coming up on. So I know to commit to these training of the trainers that you have to commit to doing those trainings at least once. So we'll be able to put funding for implementation of those trainings at least once across the state for folks who register for those opportunities. And then kind of a catch-all other professional development for coaches and trainers. So again, we know that at every level, whether it's the teaching workforce, our coaching and staffing within the councils, as well as directors, all need supports. And so we're trying to put funding in each of these categories. So that's where you see that top left box. Activity 6, teacher peer mentorship. We're actually hiring a position right now. We're in that final phase of interviewing and getting close to offer with this process. But we're going to develop a curriculum for experienced teachers and directors and programs to function as peer mentors for less experienced or new teachers that are joining organizations. And this could be in a center-based setting, in public school-based settings, or in family child care home settings. So again, just thinking about years of experience and the ability to mentor other professionals. And then we'll have stipends associated with that process for both the mentors and the programs and mentees. So hopefully we'll be able to support substitute costs and then actually like little bonuses for participating in this process. So the FTE that's being hired will create this curriculum and then do that recruitment for programs. So pilot it with a small group and then extend it to a much larger group statewide over the next 2 years. Activity 7, the free online director training. This is going to be 6 course hours published on PDIS about kind of the basic competency areas that we hope directors will have, and then sharing resources for them to explore those competency areas. So again, this is not replacing things like EDU 241 or replacing the director certificate, but this is just an introduction, 6 course hours on what the competencies and resources are to support directors across the state. And so that's in development and will be published between now and next September, so September 2023. And then activity 10, similar to that, we're creating additional equity coursework for PDIS and translating a couple of courses into Spanish as well through this process. And again, those all have to be published by September 2023, just to give you a sense. So those are the 2 that aren't going through 2024, just as it's coursework that will be published and completed in this time period. From there, the topic that I think is on everybody's mind as we continue to think about investing in our workforce is compensation. So we have a couple of investments that you're probably all aware of for through the stimulus. And so again, thinking about activity 1, the sustainability grants for workforce recruitment and retention. This is the same application as the sustainability grants, and this is already underway. We're hoping with this $50 million investment specific for workforce, and that's in addition to that a little over $200 million for operational costs. This $50 million is giving us a chance to collect some data from programs across the state on what benefits and offerings they're providing to their staff across the state, and then what changes they're able to make with this additional investment. So are they increasing the number of benefits that they're offering? Were they subsidizing those costs for employees? Were they adding wellness? Are they adding retention bonuses or hiring bonuses, things of that nature? So we're collecting a lot of data here to make some additional decisions as we're moving forward through this process. And then similar to that, the CCAP salary increases. This is $3 million per year through our CCDF base. So this will be ongoing to test with a group of about 2,400 professionals out of our greater workforce of about 21,000, how this might change the retention of those 2,400 approximate folks that would be participating in this pilot. And so we're going to do an evaluation as part of that process to see what that retention change looks like. And then parallel to that, on the lower level, planning in progress, we all know that we're transitioning to the new department and doing a lot of planning for universal preschool implementation. And as a result of that, we're strategizing on how we can utilize a lot of our public funding streams to better sustain these types of compensation changes. So you'll see we're making investments and collecting data. And on the bottom end, we're using that to strategize how we might be able to better sustain these higher compensation rates in the future. So one of our stimulus activities is actually cost modeling, what it might look like to move from a market rate subsidy pool to a cost of quality subsidy pool. Of course, there's no guarantees of what this will look like or what might change, but we are using a lot of this as strategic data collection opportunities, knowing that compensation is a big question on everybody's mind. So just again, wanting to share for the good of the group what's kind of going on at our level here. And then to Karen's question in the chat a moment ago, where are the links for all of this information as we're continuing to move through implementation? So some of these are not quite ready yet. So specific to the recruitment and retention scholarships and loan forgiveness, we are on the verge of publishing all of that with our partners at the Department of Higher Education. So just due to a little contracting delay, we're about to have that as all signed. So we're hoping to launch these applications in April so that folks can start accessing that. Just know that the scholarships will be retroactive for spring semester. So students who are currently enrolled might be eligible for some scholarship funding to go towards tuition and fees. And similar with loan forgiveness, that will all appear to be paid through 2022 and 2023. So we're really excited to be on the verge of publishing a lot of that. And then again, in these slides, you'll see links to all of the website materials and FAQs for all of these. So 101 and 103, as folks know, that was launched in fall of 2021 and will be ongoing for the next several years. With apprenticeships, we just signed a contract with Childcare Innovations at Red Rocks to expand their existing programs. And then we'll also be pushing out a solicitation very soon to allow for other programs who are interested in developing an apprenticeship to apply for some of our funding. And then last but not least, the second set of slides, that the Teacher Peer Mentorship Program, and again, a lot of other opportunities, we're able to just share some updates there. I want to call attention specifically to the Teach Scholarship as they are accepting applications for summer semester, and they actually are still able to register folks for current spring semester if they're already enrolled in coursework and maybe have some employer buy-in there. Folks are able to reach out to ECLA for all of that. And then last but not least, we launched the Circle application a couple weeks ago, actually just last week. I've already just decided it's April. It was just last week that we launched the application for that. And that is an important one to call out for you all because that is actually allowing for localities and regional groups to submit projects that could better support workforce preparation or come up with local opportunities to support access to childcare, business supports for childcare providers, and a whole broad range of innovations. So I wanted you all to know that that first round of applications is being accepted now, and then we're intending to have a second round that will go through the month of May. So a lot going on, and I don't know why I probably went a little over time, but I think this is all super timely. You always have my email. So I'm going to double check the chat and see if I caught everything. And while I'm doing that, I'd love for folks to come off mute really quickly if they will give me another minute or so to answer any questions that maybe I didn't get to.
You got plenty of time, Angela, so
Yeah.
no rush.
Not seeing any new questions, but please feel free to take yourselves off mute and ask questions.
So I know that was a lot of similar information to what you've already kind of heard from me before, but again, we wanted to present these new visualizations and just share a little bit about the future vision for some of this as we're going through such a big transition period. So just know, I would love to chat with each of you, offline if that's helpful, to walk through some of these opportunities and how we can make sure that the workforce has access to these. We're intending to use some of the upcoming early childhood workforce development subcommittee meetings to collect information on making sure that professionals have access to these funding streams. So we're going to be kind of pushing this information out in a lot of different channels. But if you need additional technical assistance, please do reach out and make sure that you're getting the support that you all need. But I think the links in the chat or in the slides should help you navigate some of the implementation information in the meantime. And not seeing any other questions, I'll pass it back to Charlie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. Your team is very clearly working hard to make this all happen. I'm just putting your presentation back in the chat if anyone missed it when I first put it in. All right. We are
I have
going
a
to
quick
move
question for
on.
Angela, if you don't mind.
Yes, please, Angie.
Will this information about the data being collected through this stabilization be shared so that we can know how programs are using this money to support the workforce within our own communities?
That's a great question, Angie. I can check back with our stimulus team of what the process for our evaluation and reporting will be. I think there is intention to be able to share aggregate data, hopefully down to that kind of county level. So let me see what the team has planned for that. I'm indirectly involved with a lot of the sustainability grant data collection. So I'll circle back with you all on that. And I think that's a great question for everyone to know. So I'll work with Charlie and the team, the QRS team, to make sure that we're able to share back a response for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and our unit too is going to be overseeing much of these stimulus activities. We just haven't gotten our teams hired on yet. So like people like Angela have been taking this on, and others in our teams at OEC have just been kind of taking them on as extra things to do. So, so appreciate your patience with all of that, but we are intending to, get more sophisticated with all of this as we get our teams built out.
Yeah, and Karen, that jogs my memory too, of saying one more thing around our workforce data dashboard. So there is intention, I think folks might recall that there was a data dashboard published with 2019 data. We are intending to update that with 2021 data at some time between now and the summer. And then from there, we're hoping to have some automated features to have that regularly updated throughout the year between now and next summer. So we have a little bit of a runway there, but similar to some of this self-report data, we're also going to be working on our OEC data systems to look at our PDIS and background investigation unit and some of that work that we've done through PDG of how we can extend that through some automated processes. So I think there's a lot in the data realm that we're hoping to share with you all, really down to that community level, that county level, so that we can better understand where our workforce fluctuations are and really help to target our investments in the future. So I think there's some pretty robust evaluation going on across the board, and we're really excited to work with you all on how to make sure that each community has the funding and supports that they need to move through whatever opportunities that we have identified through that data. And then last but not least, sorry, one other thing that I didn't have a slide on is that the employer-based childcare grants, the second round for that should be launched at some point in the next month. So we have that going through our procurement processes to get published, in which case we won't be able to speak to that question or any questions around that grant once it's published on our procurement website. So I'll put a link in the chat to the form that folks can fill out if you know of any programs or employers in your community that want to partner to apply for that funding. They can fill out that form, and then they would be able to receive the information about when that's posted. So that's as much as I can share about employer-based childcare, but that's the other capital grant funding outside of E&E that we have available. And it'll be available again very soon. Okay, I promise I'm done this time.
No, we appreciate it. This is very important stuff, and yeah, we're building communities here. So, all right, wonderful. I'm going to pass it over to Lisa Matter, who is going to talk a little bit about the whole child conference first, I think. Let me make sure.
Hang on. Nope, I got
Oh,
it. I
okay.
just muted it. It was me.
Cool,
You'd
cool.
think after literally 1,000 hours on Google and Zoom, we'd get better at that, but we all need it on our shirt. You're still on mute. All I was saying was, wow, it's really nice to see people. So hopefully you could just see that on my face. I see Stacy Petty and Sherry Valdez on my screen right now, and it's just really nice to see people, which is what we hope for with the Whole Child Conference. And I was just asked to give a little bit of an update on this because it's just sort of elevating it. We just like Angela was saying, so many preschool development grant stimulus funded contracts are getting rolling. And one of those is something that we have had in our back pocket and our hopes for a long time, which was having a conference that serves a special space. And we have just recently awarded Healthy Childcare Colorado the contract to be the coordinator of this conference that's coming up in this fall. Dates are not set. Some of you are on the steering committee working out these pieces, and I in fact missed the steering committee last week while I was on vacation. But there will be a fall date set. Most likely it'll be a Friday, Saturday event or a Monday, Tuesday event. So sort of one end of the week, 2-day event meant to meet professional development needs while also meeting connection needs, like we are here today, being able to see each other. So there were not a lot of details yet, but we also wanted to just have this on your radar so that you could know who is this conference for. When we say Whole Child, that's goes back to that picture that's on the first one there, the child at the center. Just like Angela was just saying, all of the things that need to be things we've always wished we could do. We wish we could pay you more. We wish we could do this more. We wish we could do more across the system of care for our youngest children. The child is at the center, and the people with their hands and hearts, and in this picture, lips on babies and toddlers and preschoolers, need supports to be able to do those things. And so this conference is intended for those helper roles, all the helper roles. And I've listed here some of the sort of specific helper roles, like quality improvement coaches, EQ Relate coaches, pyramid coaches, infant and early childhood mental health consultants, child and adult care food program consultants. But really we mean all of the adults, like all of you, who invest in caregiving adults so that those adults can invest in children. And the intention is that all of us adults who are not doing direct care with children have an opportunity for shared professional development that strengthens our shared messaging, the way we talk about the work that we do, and our shared awareness of each other in this space. Or EQ Relate coaches, we really only serve caregiving adults who have their hands and hearts on children younger than 3. Infant and early childhood mental health consultants, they're going to work with caregiving adults in homes and in care settings who are caring for children birth to 8. The Child and Adult Care Food Program works with a special segment of the caregiving adult population. But all of us have that same shared North Star, that same outcome. We want children to be healthy, valued, and thriving. And in order to do that, the indirect adults also need to be cared for. We need to be valued. We need to have professional development that matches our needs and builds our relationships across roles. Some of you serve in more than one of these roles, so it might be a great place for you. Those are the details that we have at this time. I'm just checking at the notes that I have over here to make sure I haven't missed anything. There are some people have said, well, how is this different from the Strengthening Families Conference? This conference is very specific to that second layer. And I'm just going to show an image that I love, which is another way of looking at the child in the center. Those caregiving adults, the big orange and big red head, blue head there, have the most impact, the direct impact on a child, but they specifically need those adults investing in them as well. And that's where this conference is a specific, unique place, is that it's for all of those roles. And I've mentioned roles that are a lot of roles that are working in childcare settings, but it's not exclusive of roles like a home visitor, an early interventionist, whose main role is to build a relationship with that adult so that adult can build a relationship with that child. And I think the last thing I would say about sort of why are we having this event, why is it coming up, and why is now a good time, is that when we think about what the recommendations that have come out of both the Department of Early Childhood and the Universal Preschool discussions, we hear this thread of support for the workforce. Support for the workforce that supports the workforce. Is we hope that this can be a place to get all of those specific needs met and broad needs met, so that we're all working across from the same playbook, so to speak. I got that in under the time that I had for that, but I'll pause there for questions about that. Again, this is just informational. I'm sorry I don't have all of the details like dates, but happy to answer any questions about this specifically before I move on to my other very brief topic.
Can you tell us where this is going to be held so that we can do our best to project it in our budgets before we submit them?
Thanks, Angie. And that is some detail that's not quite done, but we are looking at locations in the Front Range area at this point. I will say also that we're planning it as our intention is to create a hybrid opportunity so that there will be in-person that we're all craving, but also the opportunity for various parts, maybe not the whole event, but for various parts to be, for example, you getting your whole community together in Pueblo and then watching a keynote together. You know, we have the possibility of setting it up that way. Some of those details are not quite finalized, but again, probably 2 days, probably in October and November, and we're planning around the Strengthening Families Conference, which happens this fall as well, and many other things. We know we're not going to find everybody's the niche that has miraculously nothing in it, but most likely Front Range area.
And we are thinking it's going to be 2 days, right, Lisa?
We're thinking 2 days. And for example, for our EQ folks, we'll probably have a day before it. If it's a Thursday, Friday, that's our annual meeting, we'll put them together, and then we'll be able to support travel for the currently certified EQ folks, for example.
Any other questions? So yeah, Sherry was wondering 1 day or 2 potential costs, but I think we're still working through the cost.
We're still working through the costs and looking for sponsorship for the event so that we can keep those costs low and similar for people who might be traveling. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So if something does come up or you want to reach out to Lisa or I about the Whole Child Conference, feel free to do that.
Yeah, and have certainly more concrete details to come. I would say by mid-April, we should have more details. All right. Well, and I thank you again. I'm going to actually just take the 3 minutes. I think that I'm still allotted here. Just want to have some reminders.
You got plenty of time.
Okay, not in a rush.
You have until 2 o'clock on the agenda, but we saved some time at the end for a Q&A, so don't feel like you need to rush through anything.
Excellent. I'm scrolling up there in the comments, see Michelle's comment about the if you haven't turned in your statement of work yet, you haven't turned in your budget yet, just some reminders about these coaching models that are allowable uses of funding with the EQ coaching funds. All councils who have an ECC contract can have access to the EQ portion of the GAE. To be able to draw down money from that portion, you have to have, for coaching, 1 credentialed coach. Just 1. If you are going to draw down money for an EQIT class, you're going to have 2 credentialed EQ infant toddler specialists. But I want to just always put that reminder out there, and we can make adjustments throughout the year because your budget for EQ, it doesn't go into your contract, but your statement of work does. And so you have this open-ended spot in your statement of work that says EQ Relate coaching, other coaching. And I want to just put the reminders out there because we're all thinking about and planning these things right now. When we are reviewing all those statements of work that you put in, we'll be looking for, if you are providing coaching with EQ Relate, just your regular coaching with an EQIT class, or for anyone else who's serving infants and toddlers in your community, we're looking for your goal to be 3 to 15 hours per person. If there are more requests than we can fund, we're going to be funding requests that are looking for educators to receive that evidence-based amount of coaching rather than maybe 1 hour per person, for example. We are happy to have you continue to conduct EQ Relate coaching virtual or on site in the coming year. And it should look like this. For those of you who aren't the person who's got your hands on the coaching, it looks like observing, and I would put an asterisk on that. Sometimes observing is a video, sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's what a caregiver is telling us happened in their classroom. And then the coach documents the caregiver's strengths and the experiences of the children. And there's a reflective conversation. And that's what we're thinking about when we say coaching with the EQ Relate. Thank you to all the communities who've engaged with Lena Grow. We're super appreciative of the Lena Foundation being willing to work with early childhood councils at a lower rate than they work with other partners, because collectively as a state, we have been doing such a good job of implementing Lena so far around the state. We wanted to note that this coming year, the Lena Foundation will have a short sequence that's a 5 or 6 hour sequence, sort of half of the current sequence that many of you have implemented already. So it would be 5 to 6 hours, and we are looking to prioritize funding requests where you are explicit that you are serving those educators in small groups, because again, that's an excellent way to leverage your coaching rate, because the coaching rate is per hour received, not per hour provided by the coach. And that can be virtual or on site. There's of course that on-site piece of getting the devices back and forth. And that coaching looks like we collect the Lena data and we hold a guided reflective conversation. And here we say guided because there are some guidelines from the Lena sequence. And this is a place where I say, go forth and do. If you have a qualified EQ infant toddler specialist and you want to implement Lena Grow, we're happy to fund that. We're in contracting purgatory with the fine coaching, but I have my fingers crossed that early next week, the contracting team in Colorado and the contracting team in Oregon are going to agree on which red lines are the same, mean the same thing. And it is a fully virtual coaching model that requires the caregiver not to be on site. I mean, when they're talking, they have the reflective conversation, not on site, but the coach to not go on site. We're piloting a model of coaching called video exemplar coaching, where the coach and the caregiver would together review an exemplar video of back and forth interactions, 5 different kinds of serve and return interactions, and then again, hold a guided reflective conversation in the FINE model. I'm just giving you a heads up about this of a separate funding stream, because this is preschool development grant funded, that we're looking for 4 coaches across the state who really want to engage in this, and we're able to pay for their time to participate in the training, to participate in this. So just so you're aware of it, and if you're interested, let us know. We're again in contracting purgatory on our end, so we haven't started yet, but it will be here in the next fiscal year, if not in April. So thank you, and again, any questions that you have right now that we can answer for you.
Hey, Lisa, it's Julia.
Julia.
Hi. I just want to say that we've worked really hard at Triad to ensure the blending and braiding of some of this work within our different funding streams so that it's not so reliant on our EQ budget. That way we can ensure that we're still offering the same coaching for EQ, but we're not tearing into that for Lena too. And so that's really worked in our sites for QI support. So, and it ties so nicely in with the Eckers and ITERS 3.
So nicely.
And so it has been awesome because all of my coaches are now trained in Lena and are working on getting to be EQ coaches, but it works really well for them all to be Lena qualified. And we've seen some great success really focusing on those programs that are just opening. And so those level ones, and they're really engaging into quality improvement as well. So I just always like to put in that that plug to say there are ways to blend and braid that so you can impact more programming.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Julie. And Julie has just done a fantastic job of thinking forward on that. When we had the initial Lena pilot, we really focused on family childcare homes with EQ instructors because we weren't getting to family childcare homes. And Julia really saw the potential of what this provides an on-ramp for providers, for educators, for programs who are like, I'm not so sure about this coaching thing, or I'm not so sure about this rating thing, but it provides them an on-ramp. And it, as Julia pointed out, is really closely tied to that framework update of really shifting the focus towards interactions. And I know that what can happen sometimes is you with your EQ funds work a little bit with some infants and toddlers in a program, and the preschooler teachers are like, well, I want to earn a Lena star today too. And it is evidence-based for across the birth to 5 age ranges, where we know everybody needs people to see and talk with them. So thank you. And also, we're happy to provide technical assistance and support for communities who are not using any EQ funding for Lena as well. We want it to run smoothly for everybody, so that more and more children really get that that laser focus on their serve and return interactions. I'm right on time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. We're glad to have you back. We hope you had a good break last week.
Thank you.
All right. I believe Lilith is up to talk to us a little bit about the merit awards and how those are going to interact with what we're already doing in Sugar.
Yes. I think I saw Kristen first, but I'm prepared to go if that's it. If that's what we want to do. Kristen, did you have stuff, or is it me?
If you don't mind, I think Kristen was joining us oh, Kristen's here. Okay, cool. Yes, let's have Kristen go. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no worries. Thanks. I'm just popping in between meetings, so awesome. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, which I know how to do because we're in Google Meets today. Very excited about that.
Yeah, so far, I think we made the right choice switching over to here.
Okay, well, happy Thursday, everyone. I'm back. My name is Kristen Lang. I'm the Program Access Manager for our Preschool Development Grant. And I'm here to share some updates and just a few reminders about the strategies in the Preschool Development Grant that I interact with that most impact councils. So the first is our SBDC business training and consultation strategy, which is responsive to our Colorado Shines Brighter strategy 5.1.2. This is a slide you've seen before. This is just a reminder of all the different small business development centers that are working with our early childhood councils to put on business training during the calendar year 2022. And just another plug that these small business development centers, but others as well, are available all the time for free consultation for our providers. You'll see in 2021, we had 116 early childhood professionals seek that free consultation. Often this happens in the context of attending a training, but sometimes it happens outside of it. And the link here that's embedded under the free consultation available to all providers tells you which small business development center to reach out to based on your community, as well as lists the SBDCs that are able to support other languages. So as always, I'll send this presentation to Charlie and you can click through the hyperlinks and be able to go directly to that resource. We have a few upcoming training opportunities. So just started. And so if you have providers who might be interested, they're likely still able to join is a training by Aurora South Metro. The registration information is linked there. They are running a center-based training in English this time around. You may recall they previously did a Spanish language training earlier in the year. And I think they'll probably offer another Spanish language later in the year. And then in April, we have North Metro offering a small business development center training for childcare providers. They do a model that is a mix of centers and homes, but then they do provider-specific breakouts so that there's center-specific information and home-specific information. This one is also in English, and again, the registration information is there. Just a reminder that although these training opportunities are put on by particular small business development centers who are working with a local early childhood council, they are offered in a virtual format and are available statewide. So if you have any childcare provider who could be benefiting from these business trainings and are interested, please have them sign up. I wanted to take a second to just share with you some training demographics, and I'm sorry that this graphic is kind of blurry. I stole it from a website and my graphic skills aren't great. But what this does show is that of our Small Business Development Center childcare business training participants who complete our end of course survey, it shows sort of the breakdown of their roles, and I thought this might be interesting for you. So you'll see 42% of those were family childcare homes versus 28% as centers. And I think that's really exciting information because we know from Senate Bill 63 that business training, particularly for our family childcare home providers, was a huge need. And that's one of the reasons why this strategy was developed. So we're seeing that our home-based providers really are hungry for this information and are attending the training. We also had 14% of the attendees who were interested in opening a childcare, whether that was a family childcare home or center. So this is really great, again, to think about, you know, as you have the family childcare home navigator positions coming on board, and we have these licensing outreach specialists at the office who are talking about the licensing bonus. We're trying to connect the folks who go through the business training and indicate they're interested in becoming licensed with those resources so they can actually get their license easier. Another key piece of demographic information I want to share with you for our training participants is just the years they've been working in early childhood. Again, what I think is interesting about this is that you see it is a really nice mix, actually, and the greatest percentage, 25% or more, of our providers participating had 20 or more years in the childcare business, which is incredible because it means even after operating that long, they're still seeking that additional information about business practices. So you've seen this slide before. This is just a reminder again about how early childhood councils can be involved, promote the trainings to providers in your area, and I put the link to where you can find those most recent trainings. Share with them the connection between these trainings and our QRIS. That's a document that I've included in the shared drive, which is also linked there, but I'm putting it here as well. It just explains how this can help them earn points. For those councils that are in geographic proximity to the SBDCs that are offering the training, obviously we continue to offer support for you to attend the trainings and be able to provide that childcare expertise. And then also for those of you who are not proximate to those SBDCs, you can still have one of your coaches attend and be able to understand a little bit more about what that training includes. And for coaches that complete the entire training that's offered by the SBDCs that attend each session, there are professional development hours available through PDIS. And then of course, to councils that work with their SBDCs, their time can be supported in terms of helping to develop that curriculum that's offered. Just a quick reminder, if you're one of the councils who has done that already this year, that invoices for your time would be due already for anything done in January and February. We had a chance to talk to our SBDC partners at the end of the year Actually, we talked to them like 2 weeks ago, but it was about last year. And we combined this with some feedback we got from the councils and just had some really interesting reflections. So one thing that came up from both councils and SBDCs was the desire to connect participants who aren't in their sort of local ECC catchment area with the right council so they can get additional support. There's a contact information document hyperlinked here that we created when the strategy first launched 2 years ago, and it's pretty out of date in terms of the contacts for councils. And so we just, that's on us because we haven't raised it back up, but we thought this is a really good way SBDCs have access to it to know who to reach out to if they have a participant who needs to be connected to their local council. And then also we are talking about doing some kind of opt-in form where the participants in the training can opt into having their contact information shared with the councils so that you all could do proactive outreach as well. SBDCs also were interested in having an opportunity to meet their local early childhood councils, particularly in areas where there wasn't already a relationship. And so we're going to just be thinking about this. If you have ideas, I don't know that this is the right forum. Maybe it's a hot topics call, but they thought like sort of geographic specific meetings would be really helpful. So if you have ideas on that, go ahead, throw it in the chat. They did find that in terms of full training series that they're offering that they may have reached saturation with that, but they're exploring some one-off workshops. So providers could attend a boot camp in marketing or a boot camp in, business planning or whatever it is. And then also thinking about a traveling rural series because we're continuing to explore how the training offerings could work best in a more rural environment. Maybe it's one trainer that goes around to different communities. So we're exploring that a bit this year. And then finally, just being a little clearer on what consultation includes. So I sped through that a lot, and I have 2 more things. I'm going to be real fast, Charlie. But ECC shared measures, you all know that the reporting period, the first pilot closed at the end of February. Some folks are still working on things. That's great. If you continue to need any additional support, you can reach out to me or either of the Megans or anyone else in ECLA who will support you in getting that done. We're just in the process now of digging into how to collect feedback on that first pilot period and make sure we're gathering all your good thoughts about how we can improve things. And finally, wanted to just let you know we're still resolving access issues on the PDIS reports. So if you're still having problems with that, go back into that sheet and just add a comment, and we're going to continue to work through that sheet to get your access issues resolved. Finally, just a plug, you saw an email come through, so I won't spend much time on this. Triennial evaluation is started. It is being conducted by Butler Institute for Families and ECE Insights, and in close collaboration with ECLA's Data and Evaluation Subcommittee. Karen sent out an email recently with the plan. I will drop that in the link as well, and then I will stop and I will pass it back to Lilith. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Just so councils know, we are going to be sending out links for 3rd quarter reports on the new amended templates in the next week or so, and that's what we use to inform those triennial reports. So just make sure that you're working on those and turning them in by the end of April. All right, Lilith, please tell us a little bit about these merit awards.
All right.
And I can drop your presentation in the chat.
Whew. Okay. I haven't done this before, so now I'm going to be the one going, what? Make it work. This should
As
work.
long as anything that's not GoToWebinar is already an improvement. So.
It was quicker. Can you all see my screen now with the first slide?
Looks good.
Great. So I've just put this really short presentation together to just kind of talk about two relatively small updates that are being done basically to be in alignment with the reporting needs of the Office of Early Childhood within Sugar for merit award reimbursements. We've made just a few little updates so that there doesn't have to be a whole lot of manual calculations that go along with that, because I know that there are some needs for reporting on those, and we just wanted to make that easy for early childhood councils and people doing reconciliation at those councils to move through this smoothly. So what does that mean for you? That means that there is a new field on specific spending records, as well as updated fields in your reconciliation summary that you generate every month. But don't worry, it's not too much change. I'll go over it kind of briefly, and then again, I'll lay out where you can find this documentation. And if you have any questions, you can tell me at the end. So like I said, there's going to be this new field on spending records, and it will show up towards the top of the spending record, and it's going to show up if the reconcile action is selected for a record, and the payable to type for that record, that spending record, is a reimbursement, and the related requisition for that record is a merit award, or it says milestone in Sugar, but it is that merit award that programs are receiving for rating up. And so when you try to reconcile, you will see this new field. Is this a direct payment for a merit award? And it'll give you a drop-down option for either a yes or no. If it is a request for a check to be cut as a direct payment to the provider for their merit award, then you select yes. And when you save, it will allow you to reconcile, and you move through just as you would regularly with that spending record. If it is not, if it's literally anything else, does not have to do with merit award spending or a check being cut to that provider, then you select no and save, and then you will be able to follow through your reconciliation as normal. So basically just adding in that little stopgap to say, since we have to be reporting on these checks being cut and these amounts being given to providers, we've put it into Sugar to where when you're just reconciling those records, it'll ask you, again, if this is a merit award check being cut. When you answer yes, it's going to filter into your reconciliation report now. And if you say no, it's still going to, but it's not going to count towards your merit. So the other thing I mentioned was your monthly reconciliation reports will actually contain 4 additional rows now based on those records that I just talked about as identifying them as reimbursements. So nothing is changing in your reconciliation the way that you're doing it. You're still going to your TSQI funding stream at the beginning of the month. You are making sure that all of your records look good. And then when you are ready to generate your summary report, you will just notice now that there are 4 additional rows in it. And again, those have those records that you've identified as reimbursements. And they're now in your summary, so you don't have to go and manually fiddle with things or find those reimbursements or do any of that. Kind of smoothed it into this easy process where as long as you are identifying reimbursements with that yes or that no, they will be showing up in those 4 different fields. And that also will mean that the invoice template from the OEC will look slightly different, and we'll get that out to you. I'm sure the OEC is planning to get that out within the next week or so. And it'll just have, you'll still copy and paste, so you're not doing anything differently, but you will see 4 extra rows. So in case you see that and say, what is this? That's based off of those reimbursements for merit awards that need to be tracked. So that was really short. I tried to do a beachy theme to have everyone, very, very calm, collected, everything's good. If you have budget or programmatic questions, please contact your QRIS coordinator. For any technical questions, or if you're seeing weird amounts, as always, please contact the help desk, and I've listed that on these slides as well. Documentation about this new field is already up on the help desk site, and I've included the link here in this slide deck as well. And then Any changes, mostly just pictures or possible tweaking of wording in the reconciliation documents. I know I have several written documents as well as videos. Those need to be updated to kind of encapsulate now this very small change that's happening on that invoice template, as well as in the summary that you're generating. I will have those updated by the middle of next week as well. So if you don't see them this Friday, don't worry. I will have them all, they're still there, and I will have them all updated by next Wednesday.
So just to clarify, Karen and Charlie, Michelle, whoever, we can go ahead and start processing those merit awards now if we have our fully executed contract.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already gotten some billing or some, requests for reimbursements already anyway. So we're going to handle those outside of this process because we're just literally, we had some aha moments this last week.
Well, we saw that when they got approved, when they were going through, they just dumped into their QI funds.
Exactly.
And so we just went in and pulled them out, just made a
Okay.
back end requisition so they couldn't spend or do anything with them. So we just held them until we got the contract. So now we can go in and do something with them.
Yeah.
So we'll start reaching out, but I just wanted to double check before we started moving forward that we could go ahead and start doing something.
Yeah, that's great. But for those councils who have gone ahead and billed on the existing templates and all that stuff, don't worry, we're not going to make you redo anything. We'll figure that out on our end. But I think the invoice template is pretty much ready to go. So we'll get that out ASAP. Thanks for that.
Charlie, this is Angie. Can you update the link to Lila's presentation? Because that one says we need to have allowed access to view it.
No problem. I will go ahead and update that right now. Does anyone else have any questions on the reporting or any part of this? Basically, it's this is based on the reporting needs of the state, and we have to report on the merit award specifically because of the funding source that they're coming from.
Charlie, I have one more question on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
when
please.
I was reading the guidance on that, there's some requirements for what it can be used for. And I know that because it's around some of that, like it has to be used for certain things. Do we need to do some type of like summary or survey or something related to how the individuals are using those funds?
So Julia, I think that, and Lilith, correct me if I'm wrong, on our last TA, we did a support doc that gave you the option to drop in a just like what it's used for comment. And if you're using that comment field, we should be able to pull that out for reporting. And I just want to be sure I was right about that, Lilith.
Yes. So when providers are submitting their spending requests through EC Connect to have a check cut for their merit award amount, they will specifically call out in, I don't remember what it's called right now, but the box at the very bottom that's like, what are you going to be using these funds for? What are these funds going towards quality improvement for? And so providers will specifically send or write out their intentions in that box. And then I have a report in Sugar, which I can also add to Charlie's email that goes out after this, that people can see who, for your council, who has been awarded these merit awards. And then you can see specifically who has included their justification or their narrative about what they will be using them on. And so it's kind of up to the council to suggest and coax and support the programs in remembering to jot down what they are going to be using them for so that we can capture it within that report.
That's great. Yeah, we'll make sure we do that as we work with these merit awards. Thank you so much.
And real quick, I'll get to you real quick, Mandy, but I want to address Stacy's statement in there. She had talked about a question that she had about a merit award. We did come across about how many, you guys, 8-ish, 9-ish or so merit awards that slipped through the cracks and got into accounts who weren't actually eligible. And that was based on that March 11th, 2021 date and that sort of thing. So some of those did get reversed out. So we'll make sure that that wasn't one of them, Stacy. Yes, Lisa, we did, and we will send out information on that. But if you have any questions, we'll be sure and reach out to Charlie. And then I want to get to Mandy. She's had her hand up.
So my question is regarding a W-9 and who's collecting that? Is that up to us to collect that information if we are giving them a check that's not coming through Sugar at all or EC?
Yeah, that is your responsibility.
Okay, and if they get cash back out for it as a reimbursement, they do get a W-9 or they do get a 1099 for that.
I don't know how that. Yes, I believe that's true. I think that that's not my area of expertise, unfortunately, but I know that ECLA has done a little bit of training on that for nonprofit groups, so you could also chat with them on that one. But yes, I believe the answer is yes.
Okay.
And then
I can answer Karen's question.
Good.
Karen,
yeah.
So that is automatically awarded 5 days after that level has increased. We put in a 5-day buffer just in case there was anything that were to change, anything that were to come up, and to give the program some time to make sure that they have an MOU in place. Because again, these programs will not be awarded these funds unless they have an active MOU in place. If they have an MOU out for signing or they've submitted for funding, they will not get this funding, even if they do go through a level change. And so just to be really, really cautious and watching those programs that do have those MOUs out for signing to get them signing it so they can be eligible to receive these funds.
We have made some exceptions, you guys. So if somebody's like right on the edge, you know, we've gone ahead and approved those. So we are watching for those and verifying those and having conversations with you guys. So, Julia.
So what if they have, they don't have an MOU, they increase and then they get an MOU?
That's what we were just chatting about. So as long as it's within a very, I would say, you know, a week or two within that change, then they would be eligible. But, you know, the way the system is actually set up is that both things have to be in place for the system to auto award those merit awards. So what Lilith's been doing for us is running us a report saying, hey, here's a few that have no MOUs, but they're coming through as, you know, merit awards. You know, are they eligible or not? And like I said, we've been erring on the side of making them eligible as long as it's a quick transition time period. But it wouldn't be like, I got my level 2 in March, but I didn't sign my MOU until next August. That's not an eligible merit award. And I know a few of you have raised some concerns around the timing of, gosh, I can't do any more coaching or this or that this year. I just don't have the bandwidth. And basically what we're just encouraging you to do is get the MOU signed with a caveat in there that just basically says, you know, your services will start next July and, you know, we'll re-sign another MOU or whatever next July. But, you know, just so that those MOUs are there and they can, you know, be eligible for those awards. We've been doing a really good job lately. I didn't pull it since the last time we chatted, but I'm getting ready to. So, but there's a lot of them out there. It's cool.
So just for clarification, Karen, on the stimulus website, it doesn't say that a requirement was for the incentive award going to a higher level, required them to be open March 2021. So we didn't think that applied.
Yeah.
If that is the case, could we add that language to the website?
Yeah, I can ask somebody to add that language, but it follows the same parameters as the ARP 10% funding. So it's the funding stream has the caveat, you know, the requirements in it. It's absolutely the same as the sustainability. It's the same pot of funds, and that's why that is in there like that. But you're right, if we need to put that in on the website to make it more clear, we will do that.
I think that would be really helpful. Thank you.
And that's on the website for the stimulus activities, right?
It looks like Mandy has another question.
A quick one. I'm more concerned about the June 30th deadline. Like, the ratings coming through in June and providers wanting to spend their money on materials or whatnot instead of a cash or a reimbursement, or they have to spend it, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, they do have to spend it. So I would just recommend you cut checks. And frankly, you guys, it's a much, much, much easier tracking process to just cut checks. And I know it's more work for your fiscals and that sort of thing. You do get to charge indirect for these. And so it's just an easier accounting process all the way around if you just simply give them the award via a check.
I would agree with that, but
And then there's another question in the chat. Will the merit awards continue into fiscal year 2023?
Yes.
Through June,
Yes.
June
Go through
2023.
June 2023.
But you will need to have a MOU signed in that fiscal year to access the funding.
Yeah,
so.
That's the only kind of, it's just quirky the way our systems are set up. They have to close out those fiscal years and then restart. So I don't know if we need to have a couple conversations on a handful of programs that got approved late June or something, we'll figure that out. We don't want anybody to not get their award due to a technicality. So
we're quirky.
So okay, now I have really important questions. So like my CSQI applications close effective Friday, tomorrow. I'm not real inclined, like a lot of people are saying, to take on a whole bunch more because we're already over 100 programs.
Right.
So if somebody goes up between now and then I'm actually hindering them from getting that award. Is that what I'm hearing?
So what we were saying, Julia, is if you could go ahead and issue the MOU with them, but just let them know that you can't provide services, you're coaching and that sort of thing until that following year, and then you'll have them sign another
But they would still get those funds, right? So they'd still have the
They'd
dollar
still get their
amount.
funds even though you're not providing. Yeah, this is just one of those little kind of learning moments, actually. So
okay, so I really need to consider going and extend our. Okay, all right, thank you. That's a whole nother conversation. All right, thank you.
Yeah, we probably need to think about that.
Yes, Lisa. And I know it's 2:30 if you have to hop off. We totally understand. We'll try to stick around for a few more minutes to answer some lingering questions.
I do have to pop off.
Okay.
I do have to run, unfortunately, but if something comes up, Charlie, that you want me to weigh in on, let's just take the question and we'll get back to everybody.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, you guys.
All right, let's take one more question from Lisa. You should be unmuted. Oh. Lisa, do you want to just type your question into the chat? Or you can also just shoot me an email if you'd like. Cool. All right. Anyone have any other questions or last minute thoughts? Awesome. Well, I think this format worked well. We're going to probably make this a standing invite. If you haven't registered, let me just put that in the chat one more time. Just make sure you fill out the registration form so we know who is actually here, and we can get you those follow-up materials. Great to see everyone and to talk with everyone, and thank you so much for your hard work. can do this without the help of everybody. So really appreciate everyone who's here today. And enjoy the rest of the week and this beautiful, sunny, springy Colorado weekend. All right, thanks, guys.